It's my pleasure to introduce Stephanie Gioia and Nina Narelle, who are, according to them, the opening act for Brené Brown.
Welcome.
So without further ado, I'm going to let you read about them in your program and your app, but here they are.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hey guys.
It's a dream come true for me to get to open for Brené Brown, so thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you for coming. My name is Nina Narelle. I'm a consultant with XPLANE.
I'm Stephanie Gioia, also with XPLANE.
So XPLANE is a strategic design consultancy focused on the inside of organizations, and we help companies activate strategy and improve organizational performance through design thinking, co-creation, and visual thinking. Some of you may have attended the session we did last year on how design thinking is disrupting change management. I'm curious, who was there? Did any of you attend that session? Okay, so you all may know a little bit about us. This year we wanted to come back and continue on that theme and explore one of the tools that we use as a lever to use design thinking as a tool for change management, which is games. So we're going to talk a little bit about why games for change, why we believe that games are an effective vehicle for change management. We're going to talk a little bit about how different types of games can be used along different points of the change journey. And then we're going to actually play a game so you get to experience it. And that's what we're going to spend the majority of our time today doing. Okay, so let's get started. So you're going to need a pen and a worksheet.
If you're not at a table, there's plenty of rooms at tables here, and that's where the game play is going to be happening.
Yeah, the actual materials are over there. It looks like a few of you have workshops, worksheets. So here's what I want you to do once you have that. I want you to think of a change challenge. It can be big, it can be small, it can be something you're working on currently or a project for in the past, it doesn't matter. I just need you to pick one, and I want you to quickly write it down in 10 words or less. Don't agonize, just give me the gist, 10 words or less.
And use the top box up here, the little box, Alvana white. Top box.
I can repeat the instructions. So I want you to think of a change challenge that you'd like to workshop during this workshop as we play the game. Just one. It can be something big or small. It can be something from the past or the present. Just pick one and write down the summary of what that was in 10 words or less in the top box of your worksheet.
Is that personal or professional?
Professional. So in your workplace, yep, a change management process that you worked on. Okay, the next thing I want you to do is in that first vertical column, write down what were the 3 top barriers to change. Your top 3. And when you're ready, I want you to find a buddy. So someone sitting next to you, if you're at an odd table, maybe turn around and introduce yourself and share with them what you just wrote down.
All right. So, you're probably in the middle of a great conversation. That's awesome. We're going to come back to this, and this is the challenge you guys are going to work on for the next 45 minutes. So, you will have a chance to continue the conversation, but what we thought we would do is just do a little brief intermission to talk to you a little bit about why games for change, and then we'll get back into the game, because we know that's really the fun part. So, why games for change? I want to start with this quote, which I love. Who knows Jane McGonigal? Anybody seen her TED Talks? Okay, everybody write down. Google Jane McGonigal TED Talk. She's a genius. She's a game designer and an author, and she wrote this incredible book called Reality is Broken, and it's about how games can be used to change the world, and that sounds crazy, but by the end of it, you're like, oh yeah, this is real. So it's good. This is an excellent quote. There is no problem that doesn't have some underlying need for more optimism, stamina, resilience, and collaboration. And games are, I believe, the best platform we have for providing that. So Jane's saying something really disruptive here that I think is absolutely applicable to change, because aren't those all things that we want to see and need to build into our change practice? We believe that games as applied to change activation, change management, whatever you want to call that, have two really big advantages over kind of traditional change management approaches. And those are engagement and safe exploration. And I want to talk a little bit about that. Let's start with safe exploration. So when we are embarking on a change, we are trying to introduce something that is new. It does not quite exist yet the way we quite want it to. So this is this new world. And games are like the best way to explore new worlds. So they create a safe space where you have this environment where you can take risks, you can fail, you can experiment, you can kind of try on the change, see how it feels, see if you like it, see how you could make it different. And that is one of the most incredible things that games can do in the context of change. The other thing that has to do with safe exploration that I think is really cool is games are all about doing stuff. And I feel like so often we ask ourselves in this profession, how can we stop just talking about this and start doing this? And games are the best way to do that. Games take everything out of talking and get people doing and get people acting out new behaviors and trying new things out. The second one I want to talk about was engagement. And this is like super change management buzzword, right? We all want engagement, but think about it as a game, right? Games have this incredible power to engage us at a really human level. And the thing that I always think about with engagement, people say, oh, well, games are really fun. And that's true, games are totally fun. We like that games are fun. But engagement is also at a deeper level. So when we look at how games act on the human brain, they're doing 4 things really especially well, and they're all things that we hope our change programs do as well. So games really increase critical thinking, they increase creativity, they increase retention of information, and they increase our commitment to an issue or a challenge. And aren't all those things that we're trying to do? So really consider the case for games. We want you guys to get excited about this, and then we'll talk about how we can actually do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about how games can be used across the change journey and how different types of games are most suited for different types of interventions or points on the journey. So a framework that we're going to share with you to help frame that conversation is this idea of the change lever. So at XPLANE, because we're approaching change from a design thinking perspective, we really think about the client system that we're working in as an ecosystem, and we're thinking about the change process as an ecosystem. So it's a pretty simple tool, the change lever. I'm not going to go into all of the mechanics of it, but you'll see there's a current state. Step 1, what is the current state? Step 2, how can we imagine together and co-create what that future state will look like? And just how far is that journey? And then on the opposite side of the lever, you have the strategy and tactics that you're using to move from that current state to the future state. And part of what's critical for us as we move through change is to understand that those things have to be in balance and that they have to be proportional, right? So if you're asking a workforce of 10,000 people to start exhibiting a new behavior, and your strategy is to send an email, that's not gonna work, right? So part of what we want you to really think about is you're thinking about how games help on either side of this lever, whether it's alignment about what is our current state. Are we aligned about that? Are we aligned about what the future state is? Are we all talking about the same thing and share the same vision? Are we aligned about just how far that journey is? To then, how are we going to activate on that? How are we going to actually make that become a reality?
All right, we know everyone at ACMP loves examples because they help. Like, what are we talking about? Okay, let's talk about a couple of quick examples, and then we'll get back to the game. So we divided games into these 2 big categories. So on the left side of the lever that Nina just spoke about are these alignment games. These are games that help us get aligned on what is the change that we want to do. Alignment games are really good at things like clarifying the case for change. They are good at helping people co-create the future, maybe exploring multiple possible paths to the future in a safe way. Alignment games are great at helping you make tough trade-offs in a way that feels a little more safe and natural instead of like a big disagreement and fight. Games are good in this area. There's a lot of ambiguity here, and games are really good for diffusing the tension around the ambiguity. So those are all great features of these games on the alignment side of the curve. Resources, where you can find cool games and make games like this. Game storming is where XPLANE has documented a lot of the games that we use in a workshop setting to do these sorts of activities. That's a great resource. There is a website called Deckaholic.com that is just a whole inventory of different card games that are used in sort of business settings. That's a great resource. We're going to be playing a game today that's an alignment game. And then another good example you may have heard of is Lego does something called Serious Play. You may have seen it. It's you're actually using Legos to deconstruct a kind of challenging situation and figure out how to work through it. That's a great example of an alignment game. Yeah. There we go. Other side. All right. Other side of the lever, we call these activation games. These are, okay, so now we have some alignment on what the change is, how we're going to approach it, everything like that. Now, how are we going to scale that over a larger group of people? How are we really going to engage people through that whole process? Wonderful games on this side as well. How many people went to People Firm's talk yesterday? It was awesome. They gave an example of a really quick, easy game that they developed. That's a great example of an activation game. Activation games are really good for raising awareness. They are good for having people internalize how a change is going to impact them personally instead of in the abstract. And they are one of the best ways to give people the safe place to experiment about this future state that might not exist yet. So some quick examples there. I have a pointer. I'm going to use it. All right. So that is a game. It is a card deck and tiles that's played by over 30,000 employees at a very large oil and gas company based right here in Texas.
Wait, one thing.
Yes.
When you point over there, I don't think they can see it. Is that true?
I get to use it again. I'm excited. Here we go. That's that one.
Okay.
Anytime I get to use a pointer. So that was a game there's this huge business process that cuts across the whole organization, and nobody's involved in the whole process. Everyone's just involved in one piece of the process. So this game is about seeing what the whole system is and seeing how you fit into that system, how you fit into that process. A second game right here, large consumer packaged goods company wanting to do leadership competencies for their very senior leaders. So as people get promoted from sort of mid-level leadership to senior leadership, this is an actual board game that they play that invites them to actually face some of the really sticky, challenging situations they're going to face as leaders. So it's like really tough political situations, awkward sort of interpersonal issues that they might have to face, and they actually, by playing the game, have to experience that and move through that. And that's an essential part of their training company-wide as well. And then down here is a large logistics company rolling. Oh, thank you. All right. Large logistics company rolling out a new strategy, so strategy activation. And they decided the way that they wanted to communicate to the company about the strategy was through a game. And this is also played, I think, 80,000 employees. Every employee over the course of a year is playing this game. And it's a way to not just be told about the strategy, but to discover it for yourself. So at no point are they told what the strategy is, but at the end of the game, there's clarity and alignment about what the strategy is. Question. I can't actually share that because it was custom designed for this company. So all of these games are games that we custom design with our clients, except for the one we're going to share today, which is open to everyone to use. But that's why, actually, one of the reasons why we wanted to share an alignment game is those are tools that we make kind of available to everyone. Once you get on the activation side, it all has to do with the client's content, right? So this is the client's process, their strategy, and their leadership development competencies. But if you want to talk about how to design these games, come hang out with us because it's fun. It's awesome. All right.
Okay, so the games that Stephanie just talked about, a lot of them, on the activation side, again, a lot of them we're totally open source with our methodology and process, and you can access all of that online. And on the activation side, they get a little bit more complicated in terms of their form factor. But part of what we also want to convey is that you can play games that have very simple form factors, right? So you don't have to invent a board game that can be played by 80,000 people to use gaming in your work. So we're going to play a really simple game today that, as Stephanie said, is an activation game. Is an alignment game called the Barriers to Change. So you won't be surprised to hear that it's on your table, wrapped in cellophane, and we invite you to unwrap it. So they were for sale in the bookstore, and then they sold out. We couldn't sell anymore because we were holding them all for you. So you can buy these in the bookstore. If you want to, they're $20. You can also buy them online after the workshop. Go ahead, dig in, unwrap them, pull them out. We're going to do this. Okay, let me do a quick intervention here. If you are reading the side of the card that is the color, if you could start over, because what I want you to do is read the side that has the quote on the back. Sorry, gang. I held it up, but I should have been more punchy about it. Hey, check it out. There's a quote on the back. Are we all on the right side of the card? You with me? Okay. I think some of you are intuitively moving on to the next step, which is I want you to take your no stack and just go ahead and put it back in the box. We're done with those cards for right now. And then I want you to take your yes stack and I want you to flip it over and organize it by category. So make yourself some piles. So maybe you'll have a pile that's solution alignment and problem alignment and
yeah, so every color is a different category.
Okay, you got your categories? It is by color. So if you look on the worksheet, okay, we're still sorting. Ooh, got a lot of barriers. What I want you to do is count how many cards you have in each category and fill in the little box correspondingly to how many cards you have. So this first box here you'll see is problem alignment. So if you have 2 cards from problem alignment, fill in 2 boxes. So this is kind of like a visual tally. How many barriers did I pull from each theme?
Yeah, like color
in the square. Thank you. Yep. So you should have like a little slider bar that shows you visually how many cards from each category did you pull. An overhead projector would be very helpful. A little overhead, like a projector. Okay, here's the tough one. So once you've completed your tally, I want you to do an additional sort on your yes cards. And I want you to pull what you think are the top 5 barriers to change across all of them. So one more kind of sorting into 2 piles, and I want you to get to your top 5 barriers to change. Yep, I'm going to repeat the instructions one more time. So what you should have is a spread of all of the yes cards, right? All of the things that you've identified as barriers to change. I want you to pick up all those yes cards and sort through them one more time based on the quotes on the back and the category. And I want you to identify your top 5. I want you to pull your top 5 barriers to change. So once you have your top 5, I want you to take a moment to actually write down on your worksheet in each category, what were the cards that you have left? So you should have 5 of your top barriers to change written down in the corresponding categories. So yeah. Nope, across the board. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They could all
Yeah.
be the same color. That's okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think most of you have captured your cards. So here's the next step. We just moved through this pretty quickly because we have 45 minutes until Brene Brown. But this is the moment where I want you to actually kind of slow down for a second and reflect. What I want you to do is read through the work that you've just done. So I asked you quickly, write down in 10 words or less, what's the change challenge? I asked you off the top of your head, tell me what are the 3 top barriers to change? Now you've just played a game in which you have very rapidly been asked to identify the barriers from change from that card. And I'm curious, what I'd like you to get curious about is, what's the difference between the first 3 things you wrote down and what you have down on the bottom of the page? And what insight might you gain from that? So what I'd like you to do is, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to go back to your buddy to say, hey, this is what I told you 20 minutes ago. And here's what I know 7 minutes later. And have a discussion about what was the process like, what are the insights, how is it different? And there's a column in the middle, the top middle column here, which is titled Reflection, for you to write down the insights and reflections that you have based on the difference after playing the game. So we're going to give you 5 minutes to reflect on that, have a quick conversation with your buddy, and then we're going to ask you all to share out what your reflections are.
Any questions on that? All right, play with your buddy. All right.
We have 6
And
minutes.
we're back.
6 minutes.
Okay, and we're back. Okay, we're gonna need mics around for this part. So here's where, if you think you maybe like this card deck and you think you maybe want to take it home with you, here's where we would like to hear from you for a chance to win your own card deck. What insights did you get from this process? And specifically, we want to know, what was the difference between doing a card sort and just thinking of it off the top of your head? Right here. Very excited.
Emphatic waving helps, yes.
Diane, this card deck is for you. We're both working together on projects. Hers is a very early project. Mine is a change program that's been in place for over a year. My card deck was about the people and the impact to them. Hers is about the sponsorship alignment. So I think it's interesting where you are in your change will affect where it comes out. So I actually have to redo mine. So thank you.
So just because I have the mic, I would like to say
Oh, I love it. Okay.
that as a private consultant, what I can see is having numerous decks and taking them into the leadership teams and having them play the game.
Awesome.
So one of the things I realized is that when I thought up front, one of the notes I made was that there's no change experience in my organization. And then when I went through the cards, one of the cards I pulled was that this is like something we tried in the past and it failed. And so what I realized was actually there's a lot of change experience in the organization and every last bit of it is negative.
Wow. How many people pulled that card? Yeah, that's a common one. It's like, oh, we've been burned. This hurts. Yeah.
I'm working on a multi-agency initiative with 16 different agencies to change the cycle of incarceration for marginalized populations. And what I realized, the top card I pulled was very predictable to me, but what the real insight here is to bring probably the 16 leaders who are working on this from all these different agencies to go through this card exercise themselves. They get the risk up here, but I think when they see it play itself out and pull that card, they'll really get it right through their whole psyche.
Thank you.
So one of the things that I thought was interesting about this is, I have a change and I'm not quite sure what TM levers to pull. So this kind of helped me get a little bit more focused. Most of my cards were in execution and engagement, so that's now very clear to me. And I feel a little bit more comfortable and not overwhelmed with the change that I'm working with. So I thought that was cool.
That's a great, something I'd like to talk about is the sequence of these is if you have a lot of stuff going on in problem alignment and then a smattering other places, work top to bottom, left to right. Because if people don't even agree that there's a change worth fixing, they're not agreed on the problem, you got to get to that before you can agree on the solution. And so to your point, if you're down here in engagement and execution, that probably means, okay, people agree there's a change and we're generally agreed about what to do about it, but how do we do it? But it's important to pay attention to where the heat is showing up on here and in terms of where to start.
So I think we need to move forward.
Gioia. Hello, Milton from Brazil. I had extremely high resistance to change in a client as an initial barrier. And then in one of my top 5, there was the people I trust are embodying to the change. So that made it very clear to me that's the key issue. I have to address the leadership by example here on the issue.
All right, I think we have to cut it off. Oh, I want to stay, but then we all want to go see Brene, right? So it's tough. It's tough. Okay, so here's the zinger. This doesn't actually mean anything because these are all your assumptions about what other people think. And the most important thing, and some of you pointed to like wanting to go play this with others, that is absolutely what we do with this. So go play this, go find 10 people from your end audience, do the sort with them, and then you have data that you can share with people. And what we will say, we play this all the time with our clients, and I would say 100% of the time, the answer that we get from our change management sponsor is completely out of sync with what their audience thinks. So go get real data, and there's even a space for it. We made a little space, and it's just really interesting to say, here's what I thought, here's my instinct, here's when I explored a little bit more, and then here's what people are actually telling me. And that's where it's real human-centered design for change. Okay, I think we're at the end. Here's what we wanted to tell you because there's more that we can talk about. If people use Slack, if you like Slack, there is a strategy activation Slack channel that you can sign up for. The barriers to change card decks. We're at the bookstore. They are sold out. If you just want to come find us right after here, you're welcome to take one home with you. Or if you need a receipt or something, you can order them off of our website. The worksheet you can download for free. Deckaholic, more on card decks, and then our Twitter information. And if you just want me to send you guys all of this, we have sheets, and you can just mark, oh, I want a card deck, or I want to be signed up for Slack, and then we'll just send it to you. So we'll go put these, Nina, we'll go put these by the door, right?
Yeah.
All right. Oh my gosh, that was a whirlwind. Thank you guys so much. This is really fun.
Thank you.